Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Trending Vegas. I'm your host, Melissa Duran. I'm joined by Jace Radke from our public affairs team, and today I'm so excited to introduce to you Amy Nassar, who is a local influencer here in Las Vegas. She goes by Styled in Motherhood. I love that name. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Melissa.
So, Amy, tell us a little bit about your page. I love your page. You're always showing off your kids, your beautiful family, and it's such a fun, relaxing page. Is that how you would describe it?
Yes. So it's motherhood, lifestyle. I'm a mom of 4 and a speech language pathologist here in Nevada. I work in acute care.
Okay.
So I'm at St. Rose Hospital and I'm at Desert Springs Hospital. So trying to balance everything can get hard. And especially amidst COVID, a lot of us were home with our kids and we kind of really just needed to communicate with other moms like us. It was a good outlet for me to meet other moms in the local area. I like to share things that we do locally, places that we go, things that we can do to have fun as a family, some trending, style ideas, and just really give moms some inspiration that, you can still have fun being a mom. You don't have to be overwhelmed.
We're glad you're here with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and start with some really hard news. Now, this has been one of those periods where our nation has been gripped with so much tragedy, from U.S. service members killed overseas to strong hurricanes and flooding. And there are a lot of hard images to deal with. First, this heartbreaking, God bless our military and God bless the men and women who are willing to give the ultimate sacrifice to preserve our freedoms. Then there is this from Hurricane Ida. Hurricane horror. Ida rips roof off of Lady of the Sea Hospital. Debris flying around as Hurricane Ida tears through Galliano, Louisiana. And then there is this. 3 members of Las Vegas Fire Department are headed up north with a water tender to help fight the Caldor fire. They will join other local firefighters from Clark County, North Las Vegas Fire Department, and Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue. So guys, just a lot of things to talk about. First, let's go ahead and talk about the U.S. service members. I think, first of all, our condolences to these men and women who are just continually fighting for our freedoms. But the one thing when this happened, the flag-draped caskets in coming back home, that's for me the hardest images to see. And I think as just someone watching the news, it was so sad because I felt we were so close to getting out of Afghanistan and having just to know that they were a few days away from maybe leaving and being okay. It just really touched me and really was sad because I think we could all sense that could possibly something happen at the airport. What did you see on that really struck you?
Yeah, I think social media is a great place to go to get images, especially, and you'll see a lot of different sides. As a viewer, you can kind of pick and choose what you scroll through, but for me, the most touching thing was just actually seeing images of what was happening. I'm from Lebanon, and so recently we have been through a lot of tragedy in our country as well. So I can really empathize with the families that are here, that lost loved ones there, that may not even know where their loved ones are, that are just struggling to, be okay with what happened or accept that they lost somebody there.
Absolutely. And Jace, what are you seeing?
I just think, my dad served in Vietnam, so I just think, you should say thank you to those who serve, and it's just such a sad and tragic situation.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and move on to the hurricane and the Caldor fire. So the hurricane, I thought was really interesting, where social media again comes into play. You have power that goes out to tons of people, and social media, if they even have cell phone service, is the only way that they can get news. And some of these images coming out were horrendous, but for me I was not expecting to see the flooding up in New Jersey as the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. That really took me by surprise. Amy?
Yeah, there was stuff that I didn't imagine seeing either. And then when you see the pictures, you're like, oh my God, it's really this bad. I remember actually being at work one day, and there was one of my patients, and he was scrolling through, and he was showing me, he's like, look at this, can you believe this? So the vivid images are really impactful. But again, it's amazing how we sent people to help, and I respect and I am very grateful for those who are willing to go over there and help them out and do the best they can, whether it's cleaning debris, looking for people that are missing, donating whatever they could donate. It's just
absolutely,
it's a great thing that we're doing.
And Jace, what are our crews doing over there specifically? Do you know?
The fire crews across the country are a tight-knit group, and it's basically they show up and it's what do you need done.
Right.
So whether it's doing search and rescue. And then we have the water tender, which is a truck that brings water. It's a big truck with water in it, so they can move that up into the fire to help with that. So, it's whenever there's these tragedies, you see it, and you just, as a parent, you guys see, you probably put yourself in that situation, be like, oh man, what would I do if I was down that hurricane without air conditioning or without food and my kids and all that stuff. And something that makes me feel a little better is, and I don't know whose quote this is, but look for the helpers, right?
Right.
You can see the people helping, and it is a tragedy, but at least you see that humanity of people trying to make it better.
Yeah, people coming together, working together to do whatever they can, even if they don't know anybody there.
Right.
So it's great.
It's amazing the kind of spirit that comes out of people when stuff like this happens. One of the images I do want to talk about that really just was so sad to me, there was an image of a bear that was badly burned, crawling on his forearms to safety because his paws were burned. It's just so devastating. So we hope they get that fire. They're making some headway over there, so hopefully they will get it to be completely contained soon. All right, let's go ahead and move on to probably one of the biggest topics locally in recent weeks, and that is the approval by the Clark County School District Board of Trustees of a COVID-19 vaccine mandate for employees. As you can imagine, things got heated at the school board meeting. Here's a look at some of the things we saw on social media. First, this from 8 News Now. Breaking: CCSD school board votes to give Superintendent Jara the power to mandate COVID-19 vaccines for district employees. This teacher writes, they already have a shortage of math teachers. They will be one more short when I resign. CCSD continues to make poor choices. This person responds, I'll fill in and take your place, pension and insurance. Where there's one of you, there's more of us. Bye. Don't let the door hit you in the you know what. To which this person says, we have over 800 openings right now. You don't have to wait for anyone to leave. I thought that was really interesting. You guys, this meeting took 8 hours?
Long time.
5 to 8 hours. It was a long meeting. I saw more people against the vaccine mandate on Twitter and social media, and I thought that was really interesting because you're talking about your little ones, you're talking about their safety. But I also have to think, when things are going your way, you don't get on social media to complain or to really say, but when you want to complain, that's when you get on social media, and I feel that that's maybe why we saw way more against the vaccine mandate. That's just my theory, but I don't know. Amy, what are your thoughts on this? You're a mom, 4 kids.
I'm a mom of 4, and my youngest just started school this year. He's 3.5, so he started preschool, and like all the moms, my priority is my kids' safety. Right. I have plenty of friends who are pro-vaccine. I have plenty of friends who are anti-vaccine. I respect everyone. If you believe the vaccine is going to work for you and you have faith in it, then that's great. But if for some reason you have a medical issue or you just don't think it's for you, then I respect that as well. My concern amidst all of this is schools. How is this going to impact our education? My kids are actually in private school, and so they were in school all year last year wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. They got used to it. It's just part of the norm right now, I guess, for them. And they're fine with it now. And we were good. I think maybe one of them was quarantined once for, potential exposure. But what about these kids that have been out of school for a year and are now finally back in the classroom, and now there's going to be maybe a shortage of teachers? If we have a shortage of teachers, are we going to start hiring unqualified teachers to teach our kids? If there are unqualified teachers, are parents going to start seeking private schools? And some parents might already be financially struggling, and now they have to find a way to get their kids in private schools. Mm-hmm. There's just so much to it. Kids need an education. Kids thrive off of being in the classroom. Kids need to socialize with other like kids. They need good, educated teachers. So how is this going to impact us? I mean, that's my fear.
Right.
As a mom, that's my priority is education right now.
It's a legitimate fear. Jace, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I I agree with Amy. You see it on social, both sides of this issue, whether it's with schools or not, with pro-vaccination, anti-vaccination. But in this case, I think we are probably going to lose some good teachers. I saw one eloquent person get up and speak at that meeting and was talking about, there's the safety from the virus, but there's also the safety of our kids mentally, with their mental health. Mm-hmm. And his point was, not every kid comes from a strong family. The school is where they go to be safe, to have that connection. And, if you're putting these teachers in a position of do this or not, and they choose to leave, that connection leaves with them. So it's just a very tough situation. I've had friends that have actually moved out of state to take their kids and put them in a different school district. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough one.
Let me ask you this: what's considered safe, right? Is it the safety of the teachers, or is it the safety of your child? And I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old who cannot get vaccinated, and just playing the other side of this, because I understand both sides. You know, I'm a mom whose children cannot get vaccinated, and I depend on them to be in a safe environment in the school while getting their education. And I guess my question comes in from the vaccine standpoint of my kids have to have certain vaccines to even go to public school. So what's the difference other than, yes, this is a quick rollout of a vaccine that people are fearful of, and I understand that as well. But in the long term, can you really fight that if my kids are being forced to get XYZ vaccine before they even enter the school unless they have some sort of religious or medical exemption? So that's the question that I think kind of is going to play out as the months go on and we figure this out and we figure out the effectiveness of the vaccine, the safety of the vaccine going forward. But I think that's what the question is. Teachers want to have a choice because it's their body, and rightly so, but I'm a parent and I want my kid to be safe, and what can be done to make sure of their safety.
And on social, it's almost become, there's those topics that you're never going to change people's minds on.
Right.
Religion, politics. I think vaccinations now has become one of those topics you see on social. Like, people want to argue it and they will not move off their position.
Right.
Like, you're asking good questions. The others, the people that are anti ask good questions, but neither side really seems to move.
And I think it's the argument that we've always had. This is new to everybody. No one knows the right thing to do. There's no right way to go, it feels like. There's no right 100 clear path.
Exactly.
Okay, finally, guys, we have to talk about the Texas abortion law that went into effect on September 1st. It may be a Texas state law, but it has leaders all over the country speaking up, including President Biden and our Governor Steve Sisolak. First, from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, no freedom is more precious than life itself. Starting today, every unborn child with a heartbeat will be protected from the ravages of abortion. Texas will always defend the right to life. The Supreme Court held up the ruling and got this response from the president. The Supreme Court's ruling overnight is an unprecedented assault on constitutional rights under Roe v. Wade. Complete strangers will now be empowered to inject themselves in the most private of health decisions. The law does not even allow exceptions in cases of rape or incest. Governor Sisolak also stated his opinion on the matter. The Supreme Court's refusal to prevent Texas's new law effectively banning all abortions from going into effect opens the door for others to try to push dangerous agendas in states. As long as I serve as Nevada's governor, I won't let that happen. And finally, this video that circulated all over of the White House press secretary answering some questions from a reporter. Take a look.
Following up on the Texas law, why does the president support abortion when his own Catholic faith teaches abortion is morally wrong?
Well, he believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions, and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing. The president believes their rights should be respected. Go ahead. I think we got to move on. I think we have to move on. You've had plenty of time today. Go ahead.
Also, I do want to mention that the AG came out and said that the Department of Justice is actually going to work to protect those women that are looking to have abortions. You guys, this is such a hot topic, and I thought it was really interesting that our governor injected himself in it. And I mean, he wasn't the only one. People from all over the nation are getting in on this conversation. And what I find really scary about it is that these clinics in Texas are reporting like vigilantes outside because you get a reward possibly if you turn people in. So Uber drivers, there's the talk that Uber and Lyft drivers could maybe be affected by this. Anybody, if you know anybody or just anybody could get in trouble for this. And for me, it crosses a bunch of lines and raises a bunch of questions. And social media, they're all over the place. Ironically, I couldn't find, and I looked for it, I couldn't find a lot of people that were for it in favor of it. And I actively went and looked for it. Did you guys have a different experience? Did you see any?
No, more like you. I saw people who are kind of against it and who are actually using the entire My Body, My Choice vaccination, to support that as well. I'm a Catholic and I was brought up believing that, there is a human at the moment of conception. But I also believe it's not black and white. There are cases where, younger girls get raped, unfortunately, or beyond that. If you think of, let's say a family is, again, already financially struggling. She goes for an ultrasound at, 15, 20 weeks, and they tell her that your child is only going to survive a month after birth without organs. Well, that's already going to be a financial burden on that family. And what kind of quality of life are we even giving this unborn child when they're born? As a speech therapist, when I work in the acute setting, it's always about quality of life. Giving every patient the best quality of life that you can. So what kind of quality of life is this child going to have? So again, it's not that simple. It's not black or white, or we allow it or we don't allow it. I think there needs to be more discussion. And yeah, I agree with you though. Social media is kind of leaning towards one direction. So.
Right. And I have to say that 6 weeks, it gives you up until 6 weeks to have an abortion. I had 2 kids. I did not know I was pregnant until 8 weeks in. So that is, wow. Let me ask before we go, do you guys have social media fatigue of trying to figure out what is made up, what is true, what is false? It just seems like there's so much information out there and experts giving their opinion that sound like they know what they're talking about, and you're going, ooh, that's a good point. But then going, is that true, or did you make that up? And I have to verify it, and I don't even know what's true anymore.
I think what's important is that you use social media, but you don't believe everything that you see. Like I said, I think that Instagram does sort of filter what you want to hear. TikTok is even worse though. TikTok, I'm on there as well, and you will get, it's funny because when I compare the stuff that's on my For You page versus my sister's, they are so different. It knows what you want and it keeps feeding you that information, whether it's false or not. But you've got to watch everything or read everything with just, a little grain of salt. Like, not everything that you see is exactly the way people portray it.
And sources matter.
Exactly.
So find
Sources
the sources
do
that you think are truthful and follow those.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, great topics. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And thanks to you too, Jace. All right, well, the water shortage we are facing here in the West has a lot of people concerned, but we had the opportunity to chat with some of our local leaders on their thoughts on the issue. We'll have that when we come back.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back, everyone. The water shortage we're facing here in the West has a lot of people concerned, but we had the opportunity to chat with some of our local water leaders in a new Twitter forum called Twitter Spaces. It was a great discussion with some great minds. Here's a listen.
So why are we talking about water today? Well, on August 16th of this year, the federal government, prompted by the low water levels in Lake Mead, issued a water shortage declaration on the Colorado River. Now, the shortage will reduce the amount of water Southern Nevada will be allowed to withdraw from Lake Mead beginning in January 2022. We have a great panel for you. We are joined by Assemblyman Howard Watt, who represents District 15. He's also the chair on the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources and the vice chair on the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. We are joined by Dr. Nicholas Irwin, who is the assistant professor of economics at UNLV Lee Business School. Bronson Mack, media relations and public outreach manager for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. And Marco Vallata, senior management analyst with the City of Las Vegas. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just go ahead and start with a pretty basic question, but it's the question that everyone's wondering. With the recent shortage declaration, what does this mean for water?
You know, the drought that we've been seeing and experiencing on the Colorado River for about the past 20 years, it is serious. I mean, we have seen the flows of the Colorado River reduced on average by about 20% year over year during that time period. That has had significant impact on the levels of Lake Mead. And Lake Mead's water level has dropped about 140 feet since the turn of the century. So while we have had those challenges and seen the impacts of the drought, our community has really become well prepared not only to address our current water needs, but also to continue managing our water responsibly. And we've really done that through our progressive and comprehensive water conservation programs. When the drought started in the 2000s, Southern Nevada was using more than its Colorado River allocation allowed. Now, there were some provisions on the river that allowed us to take more water, but we used about 325,000 acre feet, and our allocation is 300,000 acre feet. So the drought hits, and it was really important that we implemented the types of water conservation programs we know today: watering restrictions depending on the season, turf replacement program, water budgets for golf courses, car wash programs, and pool cover programs. So all of those efforts coalesced. And as we look back to where we were in 2002 to where we are today, our community is using 23% less Colorado River water, yet our community has grown by nearly 800,000 people during that time. So conservation remains our key focus, and it's very important that we have everybody in Southern Nevada contributing to that effort.
Those conservation numbers, those are amazing numbers and really shows the community's commitment to save water. But who are the biggest water users, would you say, in our communities in Southern Nevada?
If we were just to look at on a sector by sector basis, who uses the most water in Southern Nevada, it is residential. It is the multifamily and single family residential sector of our community that uses about 60% of all of the water that gets supplied throughout the valley.
How has the pandemic actually impacted water use and water conservation efforts? I'm assuming more people are working from home, and that is probably what we're going to see going into the future, is people working out of their homes.
No, that's very true. And this, if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that a lot of us have been able to take advantage of remote work. But with that remote work and working from home more often, we are using more and more water in our homes. And obviously, thanks to the great work of folks at SNWA and our public officials, we know how to conserve, and we have a message of conservation. But as we start working more and more in our homes, we're spending more time in our home, that water usage is going to start to eat in, especially if we are recreating outdoors or we decided to perhaps take up gardening over the pandemic. As we're staying in our homes longer for more and more time during the day, we are going to be using more water, and that extra strain on our water, on our scarce water resources, it has to be accounted for in some way.
All right, well, another question for the panel. The Colorado River Compact was adopted in 1922 and has since guided the water rights for the 7 states that take water from the Colorado River. So a question that we're seeing over and over again is, will it ever be amended? Can any of you give me an answer on that?
This is Assemblyman Watts. I'd be glad to jump in with an initial take on that. The compact is the foundation of what a lot of us call the law of the river, but that is a series of agreements that is more than any one thing, including the original compact itself. So over time, countless laws have been passed to address how the operation of the Colorado River works. And remember, not only does it flow through 7 states, it also flows into the nation of Mexico. So it also includes international treaties. The main portion of the compact is it allocated water out to the states based on kind of how they looked in the 1920s. And Nevada got by far the smallest share of Colorado River allocation because Las Vegas was very small at that time and wasn't projected to have the kind of growth that we have seen in the last 100 years. Do I think that compact itself and those initial allocations are going to be renegotiated? No, because at the end of the day, when those amounts were doled out, we gave out more water than flows on average in the Colorado River. So pretty much nobody has anywhere to go but down in a renegotiation. I guess except with the exception of Nevada, there's not much less we could receive. But what I do think is that there's a lot of other avenues within the legal structure that governs the river for us to make adjustments. And so I think the Water Authority can talk about the drought contingency plan, which is what triggered the shortages that we're seeing. And that's aimed at preserving the water supply for all of us. I think we're going to be looking at renegotiating those agreements in the coming years. And I think we can do that in a way that manages the river based on the drought conditions we're seeing, based on the climate change that we're seeing, to make sure that it operates in a more sustainable way moving forward. And I think that's the best option compared with renegotiating the compact itself.
As was indicated at the start of this discussion in August, the federal government did declare the first water shortage. And so for Southern Nevada, our 300,000 acre feet that we have historically been allocated under the Colorado River Compact will be reduced down to 279,000 acre feet. Now, the good news is last year, water use was about 256,000 acre feet. So we are below that shortage allocation, but that is because this community has really put an effort into conservation. It's conservation that has prepared us to be able to address these shortage issues, and it'll continue to be a key focus for us going forward.
You know, I think
this is Marco from the city, and one of the other important things about the compact that has to be considered is just how the water on the river is used itself. About 80% of that is used for agricultural purposes and 20% for municipal purposes. And for our 300,000 acre feet, almost all of that is used for municipal purposes. So when we look at the upper basin and the lower basin states, some of that conversation that has to happen going forward is how are we using that water? And yes, it's important that we're growing food for all seasons of the year for the populations in the Southwest, but it's important to also consider what are things that can be done in the agricultural sector to make better use and be more efficient with the water that we do have, even though it is declining.
Yeah, this is Assemblyman Watts. I'm glad to just add a little bit to that. So for folks who don't know, Assembly Bill 356 passed the legislature and was signed by the governor earlier this year. The parks and green spaces that we love and use to recreate, those are going to continue. But if somebody's only stepping foot on grass to mow it, then it's time that we replace that with desert smart landscaping to preserve the water supply for our community.
And this is Nick Irwin here at UNLV. And a recent publication in one of the top environmental economics journals that studies SNWA's Water Smart Landscapes program. And they found that program, with people adopt, they remove their gash, it's the Cash for Grass program to sort of use the shorthand. That leads to a big decrease in that water usage. So that gets to the issue of these older houses that have grass. Removing that grass decreases that water usage, especially that outdoor water usage that we don't get back into the system. And that the program generated a pretty big net benefits. For every $1 spent on the program, from giving people the money to help support the conversion of their land and the administrative cost of doing it, it generates $3.54 of benefits to the homeowners from water savings and increases in their home values. So these efforts and these sort of policies are being studied by others and being noticed for how effective they are.
Yeah, it's important for us to all remember that we all play a role in this here in Southern Nevada.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for Trending Vegas. Remember, you can get in on the conversation. Just follow @City of Las Vegas and use the hashtag Trending Vegas. You can also follow us on our Go Vegas app on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku, as well as KCLV.TV. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so you can never miss an episode. Just scan the QR code on your screen and follow the instructions. All right, well, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next time.